this is Students in La Cocina. I'm Yasmine, and today I will be making tostadas de tinga, but vegan, vegetarian. So today I brought tostadas, and then I brought tofu, extra firm. Let's see what else. And then chipotle, salt, pepper, of course, olive oil, and then there's this thing called caldo de pollo. It's like a chicken flavoring. I'm assuming vegetarian, they just like flavor, it's artificial. I mean, it's okay, but you know. Then I brought tomatoes, zucchini, and onions. So this dish is normally very traditional Mexican. So I decided to make it today because growing up, I used to eat it a lot while I was a child, and it was my favorite meal to make or have my mom make and my dad when it was my birthday or any sort of like celebration. And for a long time, I like battled with like wanting to be vegan and vegetarian. So for a long time I didn't eat it, and I guess that's one thing that I battled with when deciding to be vegetarian and vegan, because I wanted to be part of that, but also I was missing a lot of the dishes that I'm accustomed to. So in turn I decided to just create my own take on tostadas de tinga, since I wanted to feel the comfort of being in my culture, my traditions, but also respecting my own decisions of being vegetarian and vegan. So we can start off cooking. So this is the first time I make it with tofu, because usually I make it with like soy curls, but I ran out of that and I didn't know where to find it today. So yeah, so I just cut this up, and it's kind of like watery. So since it comes in water, I'm just gonna dump this. Okay, I think that should be fine. But then you just cut the sides again. And I did wash my hands, by the way. So I'm not cooking with dirty hands. But yeah, so I don't know, growing up, my parents were usually really strict in terms of like, we had to eat whatever they put on the table for us, which was pretty tough growing up since like we all had different kind of diets. And then my dad's like a really heavy meat eater, and so is my mom, since like I feel like, at least in the Mexican community for me, showing that like you worked hard and got money and like had money to spend meant like having feasts and making a lot of meals and, you know, all of that. So that I think traditionally meant like you can afford to buy expensive meats and all of that, and like afford to feed your family. So I guess in a way denying meat was like a way of like disrespecting your family for a long time. And so I didn't like participate in this like vegetarian vegan sort of community until I got to college. I was like, my parents don't know what I'm doing when I'm here. But going home was tough since like I live in Woodburn, so it's like 15 minutes away from here. So like I'd only be a vegetarian or like vegan during the weekdays, but on the weekends I had to like go eat meat. So my first year, like after second semester, and I'm just like patting down the tofu, that way it's easier to cook with, soaking up all the water. I just decided to be like, oh, I'm not gonna eat the chicken that you're giving me or like the pork and whatnot, because like I just don't want to do that. And like my mom kind of respected it at first, but she was like hesitant. She told me that like, no, like you need to eat meat to feel like you properly ate a meal, or like went all on this like huge tangent about how I'm gonna be unhealthy if I don't eat meat. But my dad was like not down for it at all. Like he was not feeling it. So for a long time I like didn't become vegetarian when I was at home, because he would like not force me, he wouldn't like shove the food in my mouth, but he'd be like, you're not getting up from this table if you don't eat the food. So I struggled with that a lot. So I guess like I just became a little bit more strict in terms of like my diet, and I'm like, I'm not gonna eat this, and like no matter what he would say I wouldn't eat it, because I don't know, I feel like you shouldn't let, no matter like whether it's your family or not, like men tell you what to do. And it's just something that I feel like Latinx culture deals with in terms of machismo. So in a way to combat that, since I did grow up with a really strict dad and he was very machista, I was just like, I'm just gonna, you know, use this form of like resistance towards my dad. And a couple years later, I mean, he's still hesitant about it, but I mean, he's like, I guess I'll let her do what she wants to do. But I mean, slow progress, and I guess I do see a little bit of results from it, since he's not as strict as he used to be. He used to be really strict. He used to not let me do anything, have to ask for permission for everything. But now it's like sort of living my own life, which is nice. But I still struggle, of course, with like a lot of the things that like I grew up with. Like sometimes I break my own like vegetarian and veganism diet and all of that. Mostly because I miss home and I want to feel like I'm part of it again. Which sometimes it can be hypocritical, but I feel like I have to remind myself that like I don't have to, like, your identity is always in flux, you know, like your identity isn't static. So it's not, yeah, it might be a little hypocritical, but you know, you don't always have to remain true to something to like feel like you're doing something good or whatnot. But yeah, so right now I'm just like taking out all the water from the tofu because I will have to bake this, and it doesn't like to be baked if it's wet. So yeah, I think they're pretty good to go. Let's see. Yeah, so once they're like semi-dry, like you feel like they're like good to go, you just cut them up into pieces. And since it's gonna be mocking the chicken, I would like say do it like in long strips, or like strips like this, like little triangles. I wouldn't recommend doing it like long strips this way because it will break. Like I said, this is the first time I make tinga with the tofu, but just from like past experiences, like tofu does not like to stay long like that. And then once you're done, we'll be putting them in a pan for it to cook. And then it kind of looks like cheese, which also, like, the original recipe of tinga like it's everything like this except it has chicken or pork. I didn't like pork growing up, never liked it, and that was okay with my parents. Like, they were like, okay, you don't have to eat pork. But the original recipe also calls for like cream and cheese, and like I do like that, and sometimes I still eat like dairy products, but I realized like my college career that I'm very lactose intolerant, so I decided not to use that today, and also because I forgot, if I'm gonna be honest. But yes, so after you're done cutting that up, and I brought this olive oil from home, so it's like kind of broken. We all broke it. So you're gonna put a little bit of olive oil on the pan. And this was just kind of, it'll make it seem like it's not gonna stick, I suppose. I don't know what else to use. I guess I'll just, but you wanna like rub it all over, or I guess I'll just use like a tofu. Like you just wanna spread it all over. That way it doesn't stick. It'll kind of give it some flavor, because you want some flavor in this. Okay, so after that, you'll just like lay them. And fit as many as you can. Considering that I'm like probably going to be feeding 2 people, this is probably too much, but you know, it's fine. But yeah, and then I think I'm gonna cut these up a little smaller, just so there's some variety. But yeah, like I said, I would eat this all the time. Like, I think the last time I had the authentic like or I hate using the word authentic because like nothing's really authentic and no one really can like be like, yeah, that's how it was from the beginning. But like the traditional way of making tinga, I've been eating that since like maybe my 18th birthday. And I love tinga so much. Like I've considered, like, not considered, but like for a long time I was like, I don't want to be vegetarian. Like I miss Mexican food too much. Like, because Mexican food I would say is like heavy meat based and like has a lot of dairy and all of that. So like I've considered breaking it just for these traditional meals. And it's not entirely because of the food, I guess. And I think that that's what I realized, that it wasn't like that. That it was more of like I missed the experiences that came with eating these foods. Like I miss making the meals with my mom, and I miss eating with my grandma and my dad and all of that. So I had to kind of tell myself that I can still have these experiences and stay true to the diet that I want without, you know, eating meat. So after you lay them out, you're gonna put them in the oven. This is a nice oven. And I'm assuming that it just goes in here. And then you turn it on. I'm gonna put it to 400 and then cook. And while that's cooking, it's a little loud, but we'll check on it periodically, see how they're doing. I'm no chef or anything, so like a lot of my cooking is just like, we'll figure it out in the end. So this might not be good, but it's not gonna be like disgusting, that's for sure. So we'll just like put them back in this container in the meantime. And if you ever make this, like, you can cook the rest. Okay, and I'm gonna take a sip of coffee. And then in the meantime, you wanna like wash your vegetables. So I brought zucchini, so usually I don't put tofu or soy curls. If I wanna go like 100% vegan or like feel like I'm like plant-based, I'll just put zucchini instead of the tofu. But I think for today I'll add like a little bit of the zucchini and then mostly just tomatoes and onions. So let me wash these first. So after that, you just wanna cut things up, and I'll just use this like pan thing to put the vegetables in. And then, let's see. So in all honesty, I think I brought too many vegetables, or like too many tomatoes and zucchini. So I think we'll only need like maybe 2 or 3. But yeah, you just want to dice them up. And it doesn't have to be perfect because obviously it's not going to stay raw. You're going to cook them. So they can look pretty bad, but it doesn't matter. It'll be okay in the end. This knife is a little... And make sure you use sharp knives. I think I'm going to switch knives actually. Oh yeah, this is much smoother. But yeah, let's see. Yeah, like 1 tomato is like probably sufficient for this, but I can always take this home too. So I guess I should take advantage of that. But yeah, like I was saying, I don't know, I guess when I like would think about not being vegetarian or vegan anymore, it's more of like I want to participate in all of these things that I couldn't because of my diet. Like I couldn't go to like my family's parties. Well, I mean I could go, but I just wouldn't be able to interact or like be as present as usual, since that required me to eat tacos or eat like some sort of meat-based thing that, you know, they were eating. And I always felt like I was an inconvenience to my family of like, oh, well, we already bought all of this. Does that mean we have to make like a second meal, or like we have to think about Yasmine? And like, I don't want my family to think like they can't make a certain meal or make a certain dish just because I can't eat it. So like I still struggle with that. I mean, like, I'm not gonna lie, like there's a lot of times where I'll just be like, you know what, I'll eat it, or like I won't go home because of it, because I don't want them to feel like they have to soak up this other form of identity that they don't want to. But you know, it's like a slow progress. So like whenever I like go home, I ask them what they're gonna make, and like I try to find a way for me to make this like meal that won't inconvenience them. And it's been fine so far, I would say. But yeah, I feel like it's just finding this like sense of what you want out of your own identity, so you can try to like work with others too. Because I've never really been a self-centered person, I guess. Like, I try to always put others first, and so I guess like in a way, like cooking and everything like that I always put people first. So yeah. I'm gonna check on the tofu while I'm taking this break, and then just open this up, and then it'll be hot, of course. But with tofu, since it has multiple sides and you want it to cook evenly, let's see, how can I do this? You want to flip them. So you don't have to do it with every single one of them, I suppose, but just make sure, you just want it to be cooked evenly. And you'll have to do this multiple times, but that's okay, you know. It's not that bad. And just make sure they're flipped. And then also, you don't want them to be super hard, because chicken itself isn't super hard. You kind of want them to be firm, but not too firm. Just like kind of get that mock of chicken. But yes. So after you're done flipping them, you're just going to put them back. And I don't really count the minutes, but if I did, I would say like another 5 to 10 minutes. Let's see. Okay, I think that's all of them. Yeah, that's all of them. So then you just put them back in how they are. And then I'm gonna probably do that once or twice more. And then once you do that, you wanna put some seasoning onto it, but we'll worry about that when we get there. Maybe I will use the other one, that way I don't leave just random vegetables out here. But yes. So I've always loved cooking, or I love the idea of cooking. Like growing up, my grandma was a great cook before she got like really sick, and she still cooks, of course, but it's more of like a way to survive, like making a meal for the day to like eat, rather than like how she used to do it. Like, this is like a feast, because I feel like in my family we show our appreciation by like gift giving, and that doesn't necessarily mean like buying gifts for your family, or more of like, I made you this meal because I appreciate you. And so growing up around that, it really made me appreciate food even more, and just like the amount of detail and hard work that people put into their meals, to show like your family that you love them and appreciate them. So yeah, I never was like a little chef or like making these all like pretty meals and whatnot, but I've always appreciated it and had a love for people who really used food as a way, like as an art form, or like their medium. So yeah, and even now I feel like I really appreciate food. And then I'm just gonna like pour this while we're waiting for the tofu. That's a lot of tomatoes, but it's fine. Then you just want to put this to the side. But yeah, even now I've like considered, you know, maybe taking up a few of my years now that I'm gonna graduate. This, you know, in 2 months? Less than 2 months. And just learn a little bit more about cooking and maybe consider going to culinary school. And like, I don't know if I want to be a chef. I love the idea of it, but I also love the idea of being a lot of other things. So yeah, but I do appreciate food and how it kind of can serve as like another language, or like transcend a lot of languages or cultures and just speak for people when, you know, there's barriers, and like as a way to understand people and get to know them a little better. But yeah, I'm not sure if I want to do that. Really not sure what I want to do with my life still, but you know, I have a whole lifetime to figure that out, hopefully. But yeah, so I don't use a lot of zucchini. Not that I don't like zucchini, I love it, but it kind of gets a little watery. And when you're using tofu, and especially since you're baking it, you don't want it to get watered down. Unless you want it soft, then by all means. But with tofu, I like my tofu firm and I like it hard. So I don't want it to get too watered down. But yeah. I bet if my mom were seeing me right now, she'd be like, you're doing this so wrong. Like, you don't know how to cut. You probably do need to go to culinary school to learn how to cut vegetables. But yeah, and it doesn't have to be perfect, like I said. Home cooked meals are never perfect. We're not at a restaurant, so you just want to add that to the batch. And then this is my least favorite part. I hate cutting onions. So much that I bought goggles for when I cut onions. And then something I learned, you want to keep the root of the onion intact, because I guess it prevents you from crying even more than you're already gonna. You know what? I'll just cut this. So make sure you take out all the skin off. You don't want that. And make sure to compost your stuff. Don't throw it away. Yeah, I think that should be fine. And you don't need a lot of onions. I've never been a big onion person myself, so I try to use minimal. But enough to give your food flavoring, because you don't want unseasoned food. I feel like that's the #1 POC rule. You have to have seasoned food. And then there's some parts where it's like more plasticky than not, so you probably want to throw that out. Okay. And then we'll probably cut a little more up. Yeah. You want to have like a good ratio, so you probably want like 75% tomatoes and like squash, and then like 25% onions, because you're really just using it for flavoring. Which is something that I guess incorporated to like my own recipe, because my mom loves onion. It's kind of gross. So she would add so much onion when she would make tinga. And not that it was nasty, or like it made the dish bad, but I've just never been a huge fan of onions. So when I did my take on tinga, I was like, no, not a lot of onion. Okay. So I feel like that's good, but we'll figure it out. We'll taste as we go. Okay, I might need a little more. Okay. So after that, you want to put some salt in it, that way it juices down, like the juices come out. Because with chicken, so here's a little spiel about the recipe. So after you cut your vegetables, like I'm doing with the tofu, you're cooking the chicken, and we're gonna check on the tofu. And when you're cooking your chicken, you wanna save all the juices of the chicken. That way you put it into la tinga. Look how golden brown they are. yeah, you want to like use the juices of la tinga, and then we're gonna season it, and we're gonna season it with some chipotle. And you don't do this in the original like chicken version. I'm just doing this because I feel like tofu should be seasoned while it's being cooked. So you use the juices of the chicken, like the chicken stock, and you put that in while you're like mixing it all up. That way it's kind of like has a little bit of juice. That way it's not so dry. But since I'm not using chicken and tofu, I obviously took out all the juices of the tofu because that would be gross. I'm just gonna, that's why I put salt. That way all of the juices that come naturally out of the tomatoes and the squash and onions will come out and kind of take up that like space, or like fill in that, substitute the chicken juices or the chicken stock. But yes, after, so right now I'm just coating it with chipotle because the chicken itself is like, tastes so much like chipotle. And then we're gonna actually use like an actual chipotle in the recipe, but right now I'm just seasoning it. And then you could put salt, you could put pepper right now, but I'm not gonna do that. Mostly because I feel like there's already gonna be salt there. Okay, and then you probably want to flip them one more time, and then we'll do the same thing. But yes, I hated chipotle growing up. Thought it was nasty. I also hated avocado growing up. Thought it was super gross. But then it kind of just grew on me. I felt like going vegetarian and vegan, I had to like commit myself to like all these vegetables that I hated growing up, which hasn't been bad. I guess it's been really good. It's made me a healthier person. But yeah. So you do this. Let's see. I'm probably doing this so wrong. I bet if like a real chef were watching me right now, they'd be like, what are you doing? But it's home cooking. No one's judging you. And I feel like I'm talking to like this like big audience. Like people are like, this is gonna be on Netflix when it's not. I mean, hopefully one day Denise's shows will be on Netflix. I'm rooting for that. But probably this one, I'm hyping it up like as if I'm like David Chang or something. Okay, so same thing with the backside. So we're gonna add more because I don't want to waste any food. I shouldn't waste any food. And then we'll like use this to like cook. It'll be like the test run. That way I know that it's good. But yeah, so just add more and that will bake along with the ones that are seasoned right now. Okay. Oh, it's not hot. Okay, good. And then you turn it on again. Okay, so where was I? So I probably don't want to add that. I will need the olive oil. So in the meantime, I suppose we could start on the pan. Okay, so we're gonna grab all the seasoning for right now. I think that's good. I'm gonna take coffee. Oh, I don't know. I don't think this left side works. Wait, where's the gas?
No, you have the gas on.
Oh, there we go. Oh. I know, I'm like, I didn't grow up with gas ovens.
Kill me.
Part of the recipe is to kind of die. So you want to add kind of a sufficient amount of olive oil. Kind of a lot. I don't know. One thing about me is like, I don't know how many, I'm pretty bad at like being like, oh, you need to add this much. I think I need to add more. Because like the olive oil is also gonna serve, oh my gosh, as like the juice that I'm lacking right now. So you can mix it up. So you want to start off with the onions. You always want to start off with like the thing that's going to take longest to cook. That way you can add squash in there. That way the tomatoes aren't going to be all soggy, which no one likes. Okay. Okay. So you just, you know, mix them up, and then you want them not to be like brown, but you want them to be like translucent, of course. Because like when you take a bite into this, you don't want to like take a whole bite of onion that's like raw. So you let that cook, and you can let it be for a little bit. Then I'll add more of the onion. I feel like post-grad I'm gonna like try to cook more, like, and actually question whether I want to go to culinary school. Because I feel like when you're in college, yeah, you're passionate about a few things, but you're like you're kind of forced to be passionate about like your major. And if you're in culinary school, I mean, you get to cook a lot, and if you whatnot. But I feel like, especially for me, since like I'm double majoring, I barely have time to do anything other than like write essays and like work and do all the other work that comes with being in school. So like at the end of the day, it's not like I want to go home and make a whole meal for myself. I'm just like satisfied with a few snacks. But hopefully post-grad, I mean, I should be getting a job soon, but hopefully post-grad I'm like really questioning whether cooking is something I want to do, because I've always been really passionate about it. Like just food culture. I love cooking shows. I love going to restaurants. I love all of that sort of thing, but I've never really figured out whether cooking is something that, like being a chef is something I want to do, or maybe just like food management. I don't know. But like I said, I love the stories food can tell. Like it really, I guess, just represents someone's journey or someone's story. Okay, so as you can see, it's kind of getting translucent, but you have to wait a little bit, and you probably want to lower this down a little. You can be moving that, and then you could add the squash as you go. The squash is pretty hard too. And I know I'm adding tomato, and I said don't add tomato yet, but like I can't control this. And then you want to season it right now. And so I'm gonna use salt, of course. Always use salt. You don't want unsalted things. And then a little bit of pepper, or like however you want. Feel like that's enough pepper. And then, so the original recipe does call for, this is called North Suiza in Spanish. English, I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure it's called chick flavor. And God, I don't even know if people know what this is, but it mocks this flavor of chicken, and even though the original recipe already has chicken, it just enhances the flavor. And there's no chicken in this. It's not like this is like a dead chicken, but it really just gives more flavor, especially since there's no really seasoning in any of this. So you just incorporate that in. I think I might add the whole thing. If this is way too seasoned, you know it's okay. We have more tomatoes. More flavors. But my mom, I usually never cook with blocks. My mom has this like, it literally looks something like this, and like she just pours it in. You turn it off. Nice. So this is good. So as you can see, like the chipotle side is looking really good, and it's really hot, so we're gonna let it be for a little bit. Maybe my parents are proud of me right now. So as you can see, like you definitely don't want them to be hard because you're gonna bite into, yeah, this is good. But like the squash is a little hard, so we're gonna let that cook for a little bit. Oh no, I splattered, but it's okay. And you can see there's like natural juices coming out, so that's good. But it's gonna get even more, a little, I guess, wet as we add the tomatoes in. And then we're gonna add like a whole chipotle in here to give it, you know, even more flavoring. Oh my gosh. Dare I say, I think I used the right amount of vegetables, everyone. But yeah. And it's good that like we added the tomatoes last, because since it's already so hot, the tomatoes cool it down a bit, and then it just, I guess, like allows the squash to have more time to cook without it getting burnt. So we're going to turn the heat up a little more. Okay. All right, so we'll let that sit. Okay, so like I said, the original recipe calls for chipotle. Also, I love spicy things. And if things aren't spicy, I want to add spice to it. So I'm going to do myself a favor and just add the spice with the food. Okay, so my mom always adds like the whole thing sometimes, but she also cooks for like 5 people. And you normally don't eat the chipotle. You just literally use it as like, you know, when people put like leaves inside or herbs, like that's what you use it for. If you're going to go like hard and you want to get wrecked, I mean, go ahead and eat it, but I'm not going to eat it. And see, as you can see, it's like a little bit wet. Or can I show this? Like you can see all the juices. We're doing good, folks. Is it going to taste good? We don't know yet. But either way, I need to eat it. Okay, and then after that, we're just going to let it sit for a little bit. What you want to do is separate this, because this is already seasoned. And then flip this. Oh, this is burnt, kind of. No, it's good. You're doing good. You're doing great. Okay. Then we'll flip them. So, like I said, I should have put olive oil on it, but it's fine. And then we're gonna add a little bit more. Oh, this is, y'all, my parents better be proud of me. This is looking pretty fine. Not better than my mom's for sure. I feel like she'd kick my ass if I said that. But it's looking pretty good. And we're just gonna like let that just like simmer while we finish off this, because I feel like the vegetable. So I'm gonna do a taste test like my mom always makes me do, because my mom doesn't know how to season, but I do. I mean, I don't know how to season, but I know what to tell something seasoned. That's seasoned. It might need a little bit of more North Suiza, but I don't know everyone's taste preferences, so I'm gonna leave it as that. Then I'm gonna taste the tofu. That's pretty good, if I do say so myself. So I'm just gonna put this in right now. That way it gets coated. And since it's already really low, it won't affect it. Tofu is like pretty big, but like this would be the chicken. Just imagine little chicken there. But yeah, we're just gonna let this like simmer low because if you keep it hot, your food is gonna burn. Trust me. So once it's done, you grab a tostada. I mean, I always eat them with tostada since like you don't want to use a bunch of tortilla chips. So I grab a tostada, and these are my favorite kind. Whoever like grabs guerrero tortilla or like tostadas, I don't know, but this is like los pericos are the best tostadas, and I like haven't seen them around lately, but you can find them at Winco, and they're like $1. So you just put some of this on top, and normally like you put cream too, and like cheese. But I'm lactose intolerant and I ran out of lactate pills the other day. So I can't play that game, anymore. And then you can garnish it with some chipotle, and I'll do that. Put like a little bit, if it's not already too spicy. And then that's pretty much it. And then I'll do what the chefs do when they make like a mess on their plate before they serve. Okay, and now for the best part, the taste test. Okay. And this doesn't look pretty at all because it's a tostada. Tostadas aren't meant to look pretty. Okay, that's pretty good. For my first time ever making it with tofu, I would say this is like a pretty good win. Yeah, I'm proud of this. That was really good. Probably shouldn't wipe my mouth with it, but I have to. 10 out of 10 for me. So this was tostadas with tinga, but with tofu, the vegetarian vegan version of it from the traditional Mexican recipe of it. Thank you for joining me at Students in La Cocina. See you next time.